Okay, so let's then move on. We've got Catalina and Liz coming up next, and so yeah, Catalina, do you want to bring us forward into your presentation?
Yes, sir. Well, hello and welcome to our user group. And it's very good to have this community virtually now. I don't know when was the last time that we saw this group in person at the beginning of the year, I believe. So we really appreciate you being here. And we have definitely a special guest today, which I'm very happy to introduce from AWS. And we will talk about OSDU and our partnership as part of this project. So Liz, do you want to introduce yourself to the community?
I am honored to. I am very excited to be here today. For those of you that know me, you know this is very true. I've been a huge fan of Spotfire for a long time. Quick background, I have a master's and PhD in geology, and I've used Spotfire a lot over the past 10 years. Primarily when I was working at Hess, we used it to explore relationships between different types of data, like completions and geology data, just like Brian called out today. Also, more recently, I was working to pioneer genomics with the team at Biota Technology. The idea there is I was working with Biota to introduce DNA data as this novel data source to the industry. And solutions like creating a Spotfire dashboard was absolutely pivotal to increase customer adoption of our data and empower our customers to use this novel DNA data source in a framework they were familiar with to drive decisions and ultimately increase subsurface value. I've been with the AWS team for about a year now, and I am working as the lead solution architect on our OSDU energy data platform.
Thanks, Liz. Let's talk about this OSDU thing. So if you are not familiar with OSDU and what the project means, OSDU actually stands for Open Subsurface Data Universe. And it's a project that has been led by the Open Group Forum. And the final goal is to have a standard data platform for the oil and gas industry, right? So final goal, reduce the silos, as we were mentioning. The idea here is to use the engineers spending the time where actually is valuable instead of cleaning all this mess and cleaning all this data. So the idea is to put the data at the center of the subsurface community, and that's part of this OSDU project. So bringing all this data together into one single platform where you have the exploration data, the development wells data, and all of that into one single data platform with a set of APIs on top, right? So application programming interface that is pretty much going to handle how all these apps are going to talk to each other. But at the end, everything is going to be an open source base, and meaning open source base is that the goal is for all of these teams to differentiate on how they consume this data and what they are doing with this data, as Brian was showing it, instead of cleaning the data and putting the data clean and bringing all these silos into one trustable data layer. That's part of the goal that we are trying to accomplish here. So a couple of highlights on this project that I find personally fascinating. Number one, it has over 160 companies working together in the energy sector. So this is the first time that I see a shift on the community where I can see a lot of collaboration and innovation and sharing knowledge for this to happen. So very excited to be part of this project. And at the same time, we can see how we are shifting into the better use of this data and augment our intelligence with applied data science, machine learning techniques, and AI techniques, but into a data that has been already processed and cleaned out and all of that, right? So Liz, let's share with the audience a little bit about AWS and the work that you guys have been doing towards this project and what is the situation there for the AWS team.
I am happy to talk about the OSDU energy data platform. Fun fact, this is actually one of my favorite topics to discuss, which can be kind of a nice piece of trivia if you are friends with me and are ever in a Zoom happy hour.
So this is one of your favorite topics to discuss.
Yes, and I say that because I've been in the industry a while, as has most people on this call, and I know all too well that data is the key to driving transformation. There is data all over the value stream. but of operational efficiency, de-risk prospects, increase time to first oil, and ultimately be equipped to navigate tomorrow's energy landscape. But accessing that data is such a key challenge. Being able, as you were saying, to focus on things like running models and democratizing data science so that it doesn't happen here or happens there, but can become foundational to the entire value chain is what our customers are saying that they're looking to do. But instead of doing that, they're left manually importing and exporting files, munging data in Excel, or if you're like me, you munge it in Python to feel very fancy, and spending hours searching for that dark data that someone left on that shared file system, or those horizons that are called above salt _ teal _ purple _ final, and then your initials at the end. And so all of this at its core is what OSDU is about. The OSDU Energy Data Platform is about empowering customers with OSDU compliant energy applications as a way that they can produce the most value by creating the most efficient execution of their workflows, whatever those look like, while also providing a much lower TCO, as Brian talked about earlier, with the power of the cloud and some of the AWS services. Again, it's about this continuous improvement and about ensuring energy companies get a full range of choice and can avoid vendor lock-in. Primarily though, I see two key value propositions. The first here is for operators. They can reduce the burden of having to have a range of bespoke applications, and they can really streamline how they design and validate their workflows by choosing best-in-breed applications and not worrying about having one monolithic application that may or may not do it all. Conversely, if you come at it from a software development side or an ISV side like I have before, it's about accelerating time to market, because you can build and launch one solution and then you're able to scale that in one-to-manys using this energy data platform so that you can implement really innovative solutions that I'm sure we'll get into the weeds on those later.
So how do you see the cloud and OSDU helping with these?
So I'm actually going to take a little bit of a step backward and go back to first principles right here. I've mentioned before, digital is what our customers are saying is the key to workflow differentiation. So if you really think about that entire value stream of energy, as you take on transformative efforts, you really need something that can span throughout all of your value chains. In this slide, we have a bunch of different value streams. And then if we take any one of those and double click on what the actual value add opportunities are that make that up, you start to realize that each operator has their own flavors for how they do things. And that's really what makes them unique. If we look at field planning, for example, at its core, every company has a field planning application landscape. But once you really parse that out, it becomes apparent that each of the steps the operator takes for a given workflow is different. This may seem like common sense, but it's actually key, because that's what makes companies unique, and that's what gives them their competitive advantage. How they map that workflow that gets them from this blue data on the left to the red output on the right, how they map that is really a unique opportunity for them to enable their subsurface technical professionals to do their job more efficiently and better. Right now, as data flows through the application landscape, you see this range of desktop applications on the top with different data sources on the bottom. Ultimately taking this blue data coming in, going to the red data coming out. But this problem is really cumbersome, because with the current workflow, the user working with the blue data has to go into their app, they have to export the data, store it on that file drive somewhere, then they have to do manual transformations, then they have to upload it and consume it with the red application. And if you have an updated interpretation or updated parameters in the first step, you have to go through that process again and again and again, just like Brian was alluding to earlier. Now, this may seem like it's just manual labor, and we in this industry, we love to work hard and love to deliver value, but fundamentally, this is really troublesome, because as you export and re-import, you can lose data fidelity. You can lose metadata or other parameters. Also, how many people have pulled in data from a shared file system and have it been out of date or not have all the data you needed to go with it? Yeah. There's so many other issues here, but these challenges are really inherent with the way workflows and applications are currently designed, which, circling back, brings us to the core value proposition of OSDU, and that's That's interoperability between applications. It's giving each operator the opportunity to leverage whatever application choices they want to make that are unique to their specific workflow, and ultimately free up the geologists like me from having to make sure they imported the same files. What this looks like in an OSDU format, as you can see here, in this use case, for example, there's one application, one monolithic application that's taking care of all of your value add tasks from an exploration data room through the subsurface application, the visualization, the drill and no drill. This is a variety of different workflows. I've done this in one application. I've done this in many applications before. But the key here is that the operator is using that application built on OSDU. All their energy data is flowing through the same OSDU compliant application. There's no manual import and export, but they're able to use the suite of tools that meets their needs today. Exactly. This works for many operators we hear, but what we also hear is that people want to innovate. They want the opportunity to use best in breed applications, or they have 16 or 17 different applications that they've developed or exist that they piece together to really maximize their value. We also hear that operators really want to avoid vendor lock-in or having this one size fits most application. And so what's really unique about OSDU is once your data is set up in the OSDU Energy Data Platform, yeah, you can use one application, or you can pick and choose from best in breed applications. In this example, we see some data visualization. Maybe you'll want to do your seismic interpretation in Paradigm or using IVAP for visualization, or maybe you want to use IH Markets Kingdom. And then maybe you don't want to wait and only do your analytics at the end of the workflow. Maybe you want full integration with Spotfire throughout every single step. I know that this Spotfire image I've been using forever in my presentations, and this is pretty special to you, right, Catalina?
Right, yeah. I actually built up that presentation, that Spotfire specifically dashboard in our Tibco Analytics Forum a couple of, like 3 years ago, live in front of a lot of people. And I like that it's pure coincidence that best of breed applications, and you have that Spotfire dashboard right there. Love it. I love it. So how did AWS started, getting involved with the OSDU project, and what's a little bit of the history right there?
Yeah, that's absolutely a great story in and of itself. At AWS, we have a quirky, unique culture, and I love to talk more about that. But one thing we do is we tend to work backwards with our customers to solve a problem. So the OSDU Energy Data Platform really began as a joint project that we began with Shell. We sat down with them just to try to get a sense of what their key challenges were in the subsurface, what things were motivating them, what were some of their hotspots. And this started in late 2017 to really solve this decades-old industry problem that emerged. Exploration workflows are extremely manual, and as Johan Krebers has famously said, amongst many other people, geoscientists spend at least 50%, if not 75% of their time just trying to find the data.
Right.
So we partnered with Shell to help solve this problem by pioneering a subsurface data lake. Well, building a data lake doesn't sound particularly glamorous or game-changing, but at its core, it gets data out of these separate systems and silos and into one space. That right there can enable higher level workflows that we all want to achieve. To our benefit, Shell actually was very aspirational and very visionary with this, and decided that if they had the same problem, others in the industry did as well. And that was our beginning. That was the beginning of our journey with the Open Group Forum, with the purpose to help democratize this data platform to everyone here today. Now, regarding our more recent activity in OSDU, we released R2 on AWS earlier this year. And as part of our recent work, we are very excited to support an early adopter program with customers moving along their R3 journeys. We're working with a number of premier partners, such as Tibco, working with Spotfire, as R3 co-developers to ensure that they can build the OSDU compliant solutions that their customers are asking for.
Right. And we have a little bit of that at the end of the presentation with a little demo and stuff. But I wanted to go back to your unique culture comment, because I think that's part of this, and that's part of the success of this shift of the community, right? So you mentioned your unique culture. What do you mean by that?
Our unique culture is really centered around innovation. We have this culture of innovation where we work backwards from our customers to address their biggest challenges, their biggest problems, the same way that Amazon.com innovates. What that means is you may have heard things like the fact we have these 2 pizza teams that are relatively small, or that we use written documents to communicate internally and we don't use slideshows. Well, it's all true, and it's really a core part of how innovation is done at Amazon and at Amazon Web Services, or AWS. Innovation is focused on working backwards from the customer to solve real, meaningful problems. From the technology side, this culture also manifests in things like our AWS operating model, where we price per consumption. You can log on to AWS and see the price for every single service we offer. It also manifests in our suite of security and reliability features. We have built security and compliance from the ground up to give customers the full fine-grained control that they request. We also think really hard about what reliability looks like. How do we structure availability zones and regions? And due to that, we have had the next largest cloud provider has had 23 times more downtime hours than AWS. And all of these things come back to our culture at its core. It's also reflected in our actions with partners, where we carry over these tenets to support both our system integration or SI partners and our ISVs, or independent software vendor partners, who bring a lot of the energy industry experience. This allows us to be unique, quirky, but still leverage the organizational structure and agility to drive these types of outcomes.
And great to work with, because I'm really enjoying this partnership on our OSDU umbrella so far, for sure. And
likewise.
Amazing culture and ready to innovate, which is one of the main drivers for OSDU in general, right? So we have been mentioning R1, R2, R3, and if there is somebody in this audience that is the first time that they are hearing about OSDU, this may be a little confusing. So just for everybody's sake, R1, 2, or 3 are just the revisions of this platform and standards, and how far the community that is working on building all these standards is. Today we are working on different revisions, and as Liz mentioned, we are working together on the next release, which is R3, correct?
Yeah. We've been working with you guys actively as a co-developer to jointly create compliance solutions for R3, and we're actually looking at working backwards from some target customers to ensure that the solutions can provide immediate value. Another acknowledgement is that the Open Group is really dedicated to full transparency and making this an industry-wide initiative. If you have never heard of OSDU or the Open Group, check out their website. The Open Subsurface Data Universe Energy Data Platform has all kinds of reference materials, and they can definitely take the lead in helping you learn more about the opportunities and where the platform's headed.
And then from that perspective, if you want to go to the next slide over there, we can actually have like a little preview for our work, and we can show how we are actually connecting to this test environment today, and what it means for us from the Tibco perspective. So number one, AWS is actually developing this test environment, which is pretty much all the OSDU compliant, has to be part of a platform where we can actually connect to, ensure that we can load this data and have data interoperability, and that we can connect following all the protocols and all the standards that the OSDU community is aligning to be successful, right? We are all in the same page, and we are all talking about the same language. So what you are seeing on the screen right now, if you click play on that video, yeah, is our connectivity to this OSDU R2 test environment. So what you see right now is that we actually have a connector. We are going through all the OSDU authentication requests that are part of the platform, and we are able to provide the information that is needed for us to put on top of the API's request to these specific sets of data. So we are talking right now to the platform that is OSDU compliant. We have the possibility to interact with this data. And of course, if you have your proper credentials, and that will be work directly with Liz and her team to ensure that you have access to the OSDU AWS test environment. But then after that, you will be able to interact with the data using Spotfire as you are used to. So great user interface. And then we were mentioning the opportunity to have a set of applications on top of the platform. So remember, this is just the goal, final goal is to break all those silos and to have one common platform that everybody in the industry is able to put their applications on top, and within the same language provide the information to consume that information and that data. That's awesome, Liz. Anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, I did actually want to follow up on some of the comments that I'd heard earlier today. Just wanted to highlight and double click on those. And that's really at its core about using data science to drive value.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I get asked all the time, how can I actually implement data science to have something real and tangible? And I think at its core, that's about simplicity. Mm-hmm. And so from our customers and our partners, using data science as a means to improve that operational efficiency is really what a lot of these conversations are centered in. I had two observations I wanted to throw out there. I'm interested to hear what yours are. The first one goes right back to the value proposition of the OSDU Energy Data Platform. And that's this integrated platform so you're able to use your data anywhere in the value chain. Mm-hmm. It's not, oh, add machine learning to this one step at the very end and trying to figure out how to retroactively tie that into the application landscape. But by having it really be democratized throughout all of your processes, that empowers end users to use that as a tool. The other point is that it's all about leveraging the innovation that exists within the data science community. And that's part of why user groups like this are so foundational. I know AWS has the largest community of customers and partners. We have millions of active users on our platform, tens of thousands of partners. But just in energy alone, we have over 100 technology partners and over 30 consulting partners that bring their domain expertise and their solutions to the table. These partners include startups like OAG Analytics, who was highlighted earlier, who allow companies to really leverage these solutions and plug and play with these best in breed applications so that you can shorten the time to market. And you can really prove out this dedication to innovation through data science much more efficiently.
Absolutely, absolutely. Apply data science when it's actually worth it, which is having the data already in your hands and not spending 80% of your time trying to get to that data. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, no, this is awesome, Liz. I just wanted to ensure that we share with the community the fact that we actually have a landing page, if you allow me to share my screen for a second.
Yes.
We actually have a landing page for our work with OSDU so far. So this is the Tibco community, and here you will find everything that we have done with R2 and with AWS team so far as well. And we're also going to have all our presentations from today. So you can just go to the Tibco community and search for Energy User Group 916, and you will find the recordings for all the presentations today as well. Oh, well, thanks, Liz, for your amazing participation during this section. I am looking forward to keep working with you and keep enhancing our partnership and working together under the OSDU umbrella, which I actually personally think is a fascinating project. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Michael.
Very good. Well, great update on OSDU from Catalina and Liz there. Terrific to see, right at the end there, the active work that's going on R2. Catalina gave you a brief glimpse of how to access OSDU data through R2 environment on AWS, and we'll make sure in the follow-ups that you get links to Liz and Catalina for follow-ups there. And yeah, I think that funny thing there, you talk about 80% of the data scientist's time, being spent preparing data. Well, the other 20% is spent complaining about preparing data from what I can see. Great job, and I think that's part of what Brian's solution was. It was kind of to take out that kind of grunt work of having to wrestle with data and entries on extra lines that you want to remove and all that kind of stuff. And it's a real, I think, a testament to Brian to be able to build out a solution like that It's tempting when you do these things just for yourself, but making it work for somebody else, that's the big chunk of work. Talk about 80% of work, we do write these data functions for Spotfire, and some of the people on our team, I go through the code with them. I'm like, what's all this? It's like, well, that's the error checking for this. That's that's handling this corner case. That's, it's like 80% of the code is like dealing with somebody else using your code rather than, you knowing what's going on in your own code. So yeah,
it's also why I don't like doing front end at all. Like just talking like, why do you want that to be green? I don't care. Just use it. So.
But yeah, Brian, I think a month well spent there in sort of wrestling with Boto 3 and all of the DynamoDB and everything else you did there. It's like you figured out all the corner cases there, and now you've kind of codified those so other people don't have to go through that pain. That's a real altruistic effort on your part, Brian.